In this video, we're going to dive back into an isekai and build Asuna from Sword Art Online as a playable character in Dungeons & Dragons. And with this build, we get to focus on a high-speed, quick rapier attack type of character. But we do have to throw in a few little extras here and there. But let's go ahead and start with the species. We're going to go with human because that's usually what she plays as outside of Elfheim, but this does allow us to choose an origin feat. So I can also tie into some of the abilities that she has when playing as more of an elf-like character in other games outside of SAO, because in those games, she has a bit more magical ability. So we're going to grab the Magic Initiate feat. We'll dive into the Cleric spell list so we can get a little bit of healing because she does have some healing spells, because only in Elfheim Online she has a bit of support magic. We'll still keep it a little minimal though, grabbing the first level spell, Healing Word. But we also get 2 cantrips from this feat, so we'll grab Resistance, giving us a little more defense, and Guidance to help support our party. Then when it comes to a background, because early in the series she does wind up becoming part of a pretty large guild, even if she winds up leaving them later, there's a particular background that's going to help us a decent amount, so we're going to go with Soldier. She is part of the front line of SAO. This gives us the Savage Attacker feat, so once per turn when you hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. This is also going to help our ability scores when we get to that point. Then when it comes to a starting class, it's pretty straightforward if we're sticking with mostly SAO related stuff. They're pretty low magic and mostly focused on sword abilities, so we're going to go with Fighter. When you become a fighter, you get to choose a fighting style, and she's usually wielding a one-handed weapon, aka a rapier. So we're going to take dueling for our fighting style. This gives us a +2 bonus to our damage with a one-handed weapon. Also at first level of fighter we get Second Wind, so as a bonus action you can regain a number of hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. You can do this twice per short or long rest, regaining all uses on a long rest or just one use on a short rest. As you level up in fighter, you get more uses of this though. Finally, the last thing at first level of fighter is a weapon mastery. And as we've already stated multiple times, she sticks with a rapier. And having a weapon mastery with a rapier gives you the Vex weapon mastery property. So when you hit a creature with your rapier, you have advantage on your next attack roll on that target before the end of your next turn. And this is actually going to stack in a very interesting way very soon in this build. Second level of fighter gives us action surge, so we can actually take 2 actions in a single turn, once per short or long rest, and once you get all the way to 17th level, you can actually use this ability twice. Additionally, at second level, you get Tactical Mind, so you can use Second Wind to add 1d10 to an ability check. But if that ability check still fails, then you don't use up that Second Wind usage. And then at third level of fighter, you get to choose a fighter subclass. And I was very tempted to go with Battle Master because she does use a lot of different sword techniques, especially when fighting alongside Kirito. There's even a very notable switch attack that they very often use. However, one of her most notable attributes is that she can attack very quickly. In fact, her original sword skills include Starry Tear, which is a 5-hit combo, or Mother's Rosario, which is an 11-hit combo. And we can't get that insane amount of hits by just sticking with a Battle Master, unless you're going to use Sweeping Attack on every single strike, but that then requires you to be attacking multiple targets. And there's plenty of times where she's just fighting one enemy and attacks a hell of a lot. So we need to be able to focus on just one target while dealing as many attacks as possible. And one of the best ways to pull this off is by going with a Samurai subclass. When you take the Samurai subclass, you get Fighting Spirit. So as a bonus action on your turn, you can give yourself advantage on weapon attacks until the end of your current turn. And when you do so, you gain 5 temporary hit points. Those temp HP actually increase as you increase your level in fighter, increasing to 10 temp HP at level 10 and 15 temp HP at level 15. You can use this feature 3 times per long rest. Then at 4th level of fighter, we get an ability score improvement. So we're going to go ahead and grab a feat and go with Defensive Duelist. This allows us to boost up our dexterity by 1 point. So here's our starting ability scores, obviously very focused on dexterity because that's what we can use a rapier for, and then we get to boost that by 1 point. Then this feat also gives us the feature Parry. So if you're holding a finesse weapon, which a rapier is, and another creature hits you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class. potentially causing the attack to miss you. And you gain this bonus to your armor class against melee attacks until the start of your next turn. It is a great defensive boost, and it essentially gives us one of the Battle Master maneuvers without being a Battle Master. Then at 5th level fighter, we get extra attack, so we can now attack 2 times per action. With Action Surge, we can now attack 4 times, bringing us close to that burst benchmark we needed to hit. Also at 5th level fighter, you get Tactical Shift. This is another way to do more of the switch or shift technique that her and Kirito use so often, because this ability makes it so when you activate your second wind with a bonus action, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Then at 6th level fighter, you get another ability score improvement, because fighters get more ability score improvements than any other class in D&D. So we're going to take another feat, because Asuna is actually usually wearing more medium armor. Not really like leather armor or anything super light. So we're gonna go with Medium Armor Master. This makes it so when you're wearing medium armor, you can add 3 to the armor class from your dexterity rather than just 2, like most medium armor defaults to. This also allows us to boost up our dexterity by 1 more point. Then at 7th level of being a samurai, you get Elegant Courtier. So whenever you make a Charisma Persuasion check, you can gain a bonus equal to your Wisdom modifier. Because some people might have been trying to call out that I did not really boost up her charisma, but she's kind of a shut-in and doesn't really talk to many people early on in the series. So this is a way to skirt around that while still focusing more on wisdom. Additionally, this feature will also give us proficiency in wisdom saving throws. Then at 8th level of fighter, you get yet again another ability score improvement. So we're going to take another feat. A rapier is a piercing weapon. So we're going to take the feat Piercer. This gives us 2 features. First, we get Puncture. So once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals piercing damage, you can re-roll one of the attack's damage die, but you must use the new roll. This is going to stack with our Savage Attacker feat, so now we have even more chances to roll super high damage. Additionally, we get the feature Enhanced Critical. So when you score a critical hit that deals piercing damage to a creature, you can roll 1 additional damage die when determining the extra damage you deal. Then on top of everything else, you can boost your dexterity by 1 more point. Already maxing it out while still picking up plenty of feats along the way. 9th level of fighter gives you Tactical Master, so when you're attacking with a weapon that you already know the weapon mastery property for, you can now replace that weapon mastery property with Push, Sap, or Slow. So you have plenty of versatility while still just wielding a rapier. 9th level of fighter also gives you Indomitable. So if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your fighter level. You must use the new roll, but you can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. You can use this feature twice per long rest starting at 13th level and 3 times per long rest starting at 17th level. Then at 10th level of being a samurai, you get Tireless Spirit. So if you have no more uses of your fighting spirit remaining, when you roll initiative, you regain 1 use. Then at 11th level of fighter, you get another extra attack. So now you can attack 3 times per attack action. With Action Surge, that brings you up to 6 attacks, already breaking the first threshold we really needed to worry about. 12th level of fighter gives us another ability score improvement. So we're actually going to take another feat because of one of Asuna's other interests that she happens to have, which is cooking. So we're going to take the Chef feat. This allows us to boost up our Constitution by 1 point, and we get proficiency with cook's utensils, and we get 2 additional features on top of that. The first is Replenishing Meal. So when you finish a short rest, you can cook a special food and you can prepare enough food for a number of creatures equal to 4 plus your proficiency bonus. At the end of the short rest, any creature who eats any of that food and spends 1 or more of their hit dice to regain some hit points, they regain an extra 1d8 HP. Then the other feature is Bolstering Treat. So with 1 hour of work, when you finish a long rest, you can cook a number of treats equal to your proficiency bonus. And these special treats last for 8 hours. A creature can use a bonus action to eat one of those treats and gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. Then at 13th level, you get Studied Attacks. So you study your opponent's attacks and you learn from every move that they make. If you make an attack roll against a creature and miss, you have advantage on the next attack roll you make against that creature before the end of your next turn. Then at 14th level of fighter, we get another ability score improvement, But rather than grab anything that'll actually boost our ability scores, we're going to take another feat, but grab another fighting style, grabbing the defense fighting style. This will boost our armor class by another +1. This is more to emphasize her quick reaction speed and ability to dodge attacks. Then at 15th level of being a samurai, she gets Rapid Strike. So if you take the attack action on your turn and you have advantage on an attack roll against one of the targets, you can forego advantage on that attack roll to make an additional weapon attack against the target as part of the same action. But you can only do this once per turn. However, we have so many ways to get advantage at this point that it's kind of ridiculous, because we already have Fighting Spirit, but we can run out of charges of that. However, thanks to having weapon mastery with a rapier, we can automatically have advantage as long as we hit at least once. So if we give up that advantage, we get one more attack, bringing us to 4 attacks with 1 action, and then you can do Action Surge for 3 more attacks, bringing us to 7 total attacks. And if you happen to be very strategic and try and weasel in an opportunity attack as well, that's going to bring you to 8 attacks. So we're already well on our way to Mother's Rosario. 16th level of fighter gives us another ability score improvement. And I was very tempted to grab Sentinel, so that way you had even more ways to grab opportunity attacks to get more attacks in if possible. But frankly, I think we could probably use some more health more than anything, so we're going to take the feat Tough, giving us an extra 2 hit points of health per level of this overall build. Then at 18th level of being a samurai, you get the feature Strength Before Death. And this is where you can just straight up surpass Mother's Rosario in the right dire situation, or if you're just trying to sacrifice yourself for Kirito. So this feature makes it so your fighting spirit can delay the grasp of death. If you take damage, reducing yourself to 0 hit points, but it doesn't outright kill you, you can use your reaction to delay falling unconscious, and you can immediately take an extra turn interrupting the current turn. You have 0 hit points during the entirety of that turn, and taking damage during this turn will cause additional failing saving throws for your death saves, and 3 failed death saves can still kill you. But when the extra turn ends, you do fall unconscious. You can only use this feature once per long rest. However, because this means you are taking an entire extra turn as your reaction, you can now make 3 attacks as your main attack action, 3 attacks with an action surge, bringing you to 6 attacks. You can use your Rapid Strike ability, bringing you to 7 attacks, and if you're brought down to 0 hit points, that means you can do it all again, bringing you to 14 attacks, because that reaction counts as an entire extra turn. Then at 19th level of being a fighter, you get an epic boon, and we want to boost up your offense as much as possible by grabbing the boon of Irresistible Offense. This will allow us to boost up our dexterity by 1 more point, even though it doesn't really matter, going to 21, but this gives us 2 features on top of it. First is the most basic one. Your bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage that you deal always ignores resistances, which is pretty key to making sure you do as much damage as possible. But on top of that, you get the feature Overwhelming Strike. So when you roll a 20 on a d20 for an attack roll, which can happen much more often than anybody else because you have such an insane amount of attacks and so many ways to get advantage, meaning you have so many more chances to roll that nat 20, you can now deal extra damage to the target equal to the ability score increased by this feat. And this says the ability score, not the ability modifier, which I've screwed up before. So that means you rolling a nat 20 doesn't just deal an extra dice worth of damage. Hell, it doesn't even deal an extra 2 dice worth of damage from your piercer feat. It's actually going to deal an extra 2 dice worth of damage plus 21 on top of it, for a total of 3d8 plus 26 damage for a single nat 20. And that's on top of the base damage and the additional damage you get from dueling, and it's all stacking up pretty massively at this point. Then at 20th level of fighter, you get 3 extra attacks, meaning that you now have 4 attacks per attack action. You can add Rapid Strike on top of that, bringing you to 5 attacks with a single attack action. You can use Action Surge to bring yourself to 9 attacks. And if you happen to activate Strength Before Death, that brings you all the way to 18 15 attacks, which is absolutely absurd, far surpassing the Mother's Rosario, which was only 11 attacks, but that kind of went right out the window a while ago. And that really emphasizes the pure intense speed that Asuna has when she's fighting in Sword Art Online. If you want access to a character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here helping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play a session in the world of Sword Art Online and play as Asuna in Dungeons & Dragons.